always time to read another one? That's the answer to that question. Next up is Deb More.
Hi, everybody.
Hi.
This is part of a larger work called Save Us Houses, and this piece is called Hydrobiology. I've always loved baths. For many years, I felt about them the same way I feel now about naps. If a short one is good, a longer one must be better. Surely there's not a lot that a long hot bath won't remedy: an aching back, the need for a good cry, writer's block, hairy knees. To properly appreciate a bath, there has to be a willingness to steep in one's own juices, all the parts simmering in one pot, wings and thighs, neck and breasts, even while stuff in the subconscious bubbles to the surface. Muscle memory kicks in, and the working part of the brain isn't focusing anymore on whatever it is the body's doing. While lathering or mincing or shaving and conditioning, the mind is doing other things. It's reimagining a different future than the one originally planned, or it's contemplating the past. We took a lot of baths together in the weeks after Hannah was born. She, her dad David, and I all jammed into the tub together, stewing in a sort of family soup. Neither one of us wanted to be farther than a few feet from her or from each other. We were devoted. And as long as we were in the tub with her, Hannah didn't mind being wet. She enjoyed balancing atop my stomach or being held to her father's shaggy chest. On her own, though, she screamed at the water. She pumped her tiny fist and kicked her tiny feet. Nothing we tried made any difference. For the sake of family harmony, we bathed together. Hannah doesn't remember any of this. She barely remembers her parents being married at all. Later, I enjoyed for a time a gigantic old claw-footed bathtub positioned squarely in the middle of what felt like the world's largest, most awkwardly arranged bathroom. My second husband, Carol, paid $10 for that tub at auction at the estate sale of a man who used to raise his fist and chase us children on the sidewalk in front of Franklin's Five and Dime. The old man was crooked over and bad-tempered, and 40 or more years afterward, I can no longer remember if he chased us because he was crotchety, or if he was crotchety because we gave him reason to chase us. Carol had no idea the tub and I shared an acquaintance, only that I was fond of bathing and he was fond of me. He pulled into the drive with the tub seated in the back of his pickup truck, resting on long 2x4s and waiting to be admired. He was so anxious to show it off that he didn't even come into the house. "Come see what I got you," he called from the porch through the screen. Looking down into the back of the truck, I saw an old porcelain-lined, claw and ball-footed cast iron tub. It was a mess. Rust edged the openings for the spigot and handles and ran in a long stain from the faucet to the bottom, just above and around the drain. The bottom was dotted in the gummy adhesive remains of non-slip appliques and what probably had been, 25 years earlier, a cherry blossom design. Decades of grime and soap scum encircled the tub walls like the rings of an ancient tree. But the rolled rim was undamaged and all 4 feet were whole and without chips. While we waited for friends to arrive to help us unload it, Carol told me all about the auction and how no one but he had bid for the old tub. As he spoke the name of the man who had died and left the tub behind, I remembered running, small and breathless, for the safety of my grandmother's skirt tail. My grandparents' farm in the tiny Arkansas village of Jerusalem had no running water at all until the early 80s. Water for drinking, cooking, and washing was drawn by way of a narrow shaft well bucket up through a hole in the back porch. My grandmother dumped the bucket into a wringer washing machine to wash clothes. For bathing, Grandpa fetched a galvanized tub from where it hung on the side of the house and placed it in the kitchen floor alongside the dining table. When my brother Butch and I visited for the summer, we bathed as they did, sitting in an inch of lukewarm, iron-scented water, even as the bucket for the next person heated on the stove, propane jets clicking, blue flames reflected in the soap bubbles that shimmied on the surface of the water. My grandmother scrubbed my head with pearl shampoo and used a bowl to ladle water over my hair and down my back. Even in summer, I shivered with every scoop. Carol and I were restoring a 1914 craftsman-style house so we'd been on the lookout for an old tub. We installed the big clawfoot in a bedroom we didn't need, turning the room into a second bathroom we did. Directly across the hall was what had been one of 3 doors leading into the kitchen. Before sealing that door shut, it was possible to stand at the kitchen sink and toss a sandwich, underhanded and without much force at all, and watch it fall into the bathtub. It didn't make sense, we thought, to have a kitchen with more ways in and out than there were cabinets, so we sacrificed the one doorway to function. In the hallway outside the new bathroom, the door frame that led to the kitchen remained, but we sheetrocked over the entryway and had a large plate glass mirror cut to fit. That mirror would forever after confuse drunken party guests, but anyone bathing in the clawfoot could look through the open bathroom door and across the hall to see herself there in that gigantic raised tub, steaming like one clam atop a bucket full. The summer after we found the clawfoot, my grandmother underwent surgery to remove a tumor in her brain. After she was well enough to return home, but not well enough to take care of herself, we all took turns, her children and her grandchildren, staying with my grandparents out at the farm. My grandfather hadn't been well for a long time, and once she got sick, they deteriorated together. We brought out a live-in nurse to stay during the week, but then we took over on Saturday and Sunday. After running her bath, I walked with her to the very edge of the tub and then left her there to undress and climb over and into the water. I waited outside the cracked bathroom door for her to say that she was ready. Leaning against the wall, I could see into what used to be my Uncle Pat's bedroom, but that had for years now been my grandmother's workroom. Her sewing machine was there, as were the rows of shoeboxes holding Simplicity sewing patterns, filed upright so the pictures faced the front. I knew I could walk over and pull any one of them from the middle, and it might be a pattern to a dress, a coat, or a pair of summer shorts my grandmother had once sewn for me. The bookshelves were stacked high with old pack of fun magazines that held instructions for transforming plastic bleach bottles into patio lanterns and pipe cleaners into Christmas ornaments. Overhead, her quilt frame swung forlornly from the ceiling. We all had quilts she'd made, hand-stitched, and assembled from leftover fabric into patterns that sounded like the titles of poems: Double Wedding Ring, Crown of Thorns, Lincoln's Log Cabin. I listened for any hint of trouble as my grandmother removed her housecoat and then used the rail my stepdad had installed to climb into the tub. It took a very long time. "You can come in," she called, but it was no invitation. I slipped through the door, talking, keeping my voice bright, and trying to behave as though I'd been helping her bathe all her life together. I sat alongside her on the edge of the tub. "I'm going to help you with your bath, okay, Grandma?" "Okay." She was sitting in the tub, knees drawn toward her chest, shoulders forward. With one hand, she held on to the edge of the tub. Her other arm was folded across her breast, that hand across her heart in allegiance to modesty or to lost propriety. I wet and lathered the washcloth. "Hannah won a big art competition at school," I said, "and she got first place out of the whole school." "She did? She sure did." I ran the soapy rag up and down the length of her arms. Flaps of loose skin hung from her biceps. There were so many things now in competition to make her disappear. "She's coming up on Sunday to have lunch with us," I said. "Won't that be nice?" I scrubbed the soles of her feet. I was surprised that her toes and my own were so similar in size and shape. I wondered how it could be that I'd never seen my grandmother's bare feet. "What'd you say, Grandma?" "I sure would like to see her." I wrung the suds out over her back and counted the knobby bones of her spine. "You know what?" I said. "She misses you too." Then I washed her hair for her, gently, remembering at the last minute the incision hidden there just over her left ear. She turned her face to the ceiling, and I used the hand shower to rinse the shampoo away. I smiled at her, but her eyes were closed. The water smelled of iron. Even if bathing weren't already one of my favorite things, my big claw-footed tub was reason enough to celebrate bath time. Sitting in it, immersed in water up to my chin, I could make the world line up the way it was supposed to, even after Carol fell in love with someone else, even after he moved out. Many lovely healing moments happened in that tub. Never mind that the hot water handle was always falling off and into the water, or that my water bills were enormous. Never mind that the tub was the love offering of a man whose love had not been true, or that I now had 2 failed marriages to my credit. 20 minutes in that tub and I could make things begin to look right again. I could imagine a new beginning, not today, but someday. It was rejuvenating, that tub, and when I pulled the plug, I could stand and look across the hall into the faux doorway and see myself rising from the steamy depths like Venus on the half-shell. The tub in the townhouse in which I now live is shorter and more narrow than I would have thought possible. I sit in this tub with my legs splayed out like a frog. There's no leaning back for a leisurely soak, which is just as well, I suppose, because sitting in this tub for any period of time makes me crooked and crotchety. I can hear the water trickling out around the plug, which doesn't appear to be properly seated, like the sound of children arguing. It doesn't hurt anyone, but it's irritating to listen to. I can't hear the sound of my own internal conversation. With an abbreviated tub like this one, I might as well stick to showers. I can't soak up the good stuff in a tub that's too short or too narrow, or that loses water when the drain is supposed to be shut tight. A squat little tub like that is good enough for personal hygiene purposes, but I miss sitting in a tub large enough to make its own waves while the steam coaxes the wallpaper loose. I miss stepping out and onto dry land again, my head clear and my pores wide open. So instead I remember me at 25, pregnant and in the bath, more out than in really, with my breasts newly ponderous and resting on my belly, while my belly rests like a package in my lap. I'm so big, it's hard to get into the tub and even more difficult to get out again, but it's worth it every bit. For that half hour of partial weightlessness, for a reprieve from the gravitational force of 200 pounds of pending maternity. Later, when I begin lactating, I point my breast toward the far wall and shoot mother's milk across the length of the tub. More often than not, I hit the bullseye David has drawn on the soap in the soap on the tile. He laughs and urges, "Do it again." Thank you.